Today I'm going to talk about the elements of design, and I'm going to talk more about the elements of interior design. Now, depending on the kind of design we're talking about, such as if it's graphic design or fashion design, the elements will change accordingly. So today I'm going to talk about the elements of interior design. The thing to keep in mind is the elements of design are to be applied using the principles of design, which I will be explaining in another video. Let's talk about something really basic, a point, alright? Just a point or dot. The point or dot is the most basic thing of anything and everything. Like everything is made of points. But a point is just too small and too basic to make an element. So instead, we have a collection of points, which is a line. So our first element is the element line is actually all around us. All these elements are. And line actually creates movement. It directs our eyes and helps our eyes to travel in a certain direction in the space, in the room. So actually, if you look here in this sofa right here, it has lines on it, like these curves. That's the line of the sofa, and depending on the kind of room, like design style you're going for, different kind of sofa would have a very angular, straight, just very straight lines and not curvy like that. That's a whole other style. So lines can be found on furniture, on the kind of work that you have going on your wall. So that could be a different kind of line. Now, a line can vary based on the size, the width, and even different types like horizontal line, vertical line, diagonal, zigzags, curves. So these are different kinds of lines you can find. Line can also invoke a certain mood or a feeling in the space. So depending on the kind of lines you have going on, the mood of the space changes. So for example, for vertical lines, it has a sense of strength, dignity, and height. So vertical lines is really good to increase the height of the space. And for horizontal lines, it evokes a feeling of solidity and stability. Diagonal lines create movement or action. And while curvy wavy lines, they are more of a flowing and feminine and graceful feel to those. I remember this room that we saw in the Guest Palace in Etihad Museum. It was just so luxurious, and if you notice there, the lines there are all like curves on the curtain drapes. It's this curvy feeling, and it gives that luxurious feeling, and you can really see the kind of effect it gives in a space. Too much lines can definitely make a room feel congested, overpowered, unstable, so you need to keep a balance. There should be also balance between the curved lines and the more straight lines in a space. The next element we'll be looking at is shape and form. Now, shape refers to two-dimensional, while form refers to three-dimensional. Two-dimensional shape like a square, while for form it would be a cube. Now, when you think of shape, you might think the entire space, that shape, or even just like the furniture, the decor, or the light fixtures. It is important that when you think of the room, when you're designing, you have to think about the shapes that are there in the room, or the shapes that you will create depending on the furniture you put, and how all these shapes interact together and that they make a cohesive, good room. Different kinds of shapes again here invoke different feelings. So if you take a square shape, that shape would tend to embody strength, while more curved shapes or rounded shapes will invoke softness. Depending on the style you're going for in the space and the feeling you want to achieve in the space, the kind of shapes you will use throughout the space, throughout the rooms will change. So let's take, for example, a design style such as Art Deco. Now, if you don't know about Art Deco, it is one of the most luxurious and beautiful styles. It's very prominent in the movie The Great Gatsby. It's just full on Art Deco.
My life has got to be like this. It's got to keep going up.
praise. Jump up, bubble up, what's in store? Love is the drug and I need the score. Showing up, hit and run. Boy meets girl when the beat goes on.
And if you notice the thing about Art Deco, the kind of shapes, it uses more vertical lines and geometrical shapes such as arches, triangles, squares, rectangles, and repetitive patterns. You will not find organic shapes in Artic shapes. You will find more streamlined and symmetrical shapes, more geometrical. So like sunbursts, chevrons, trapezoids. These are like some of the shapes you'll find there. So the shape that you will use or the forms that will be there in your space can also be affected by the style you're going for. Now, one of the most important part of interior design is spaces. The space is where we do everything. Space refers to the distance between and around furniture, objects, and their proportion to the room. When you look at space, you can divide it into two types. First one is positive space, second one is negative space. Positive space, that refers to basically anything and everything that takes up space in a room. So your furniture, your chairs, your carpets, your paintings, all that is taking up space in the room is positive space. While negative space is basically what's left, the nothingness, the gaps, the space that is left is basically negative space. Now, when you see images showing positive and negative space, you will see those images that kind of like show an illusion of two images, which is created by that black and white. The black here refers to the positive space and the white refers to the negative space. Keep in mind the amount of negative and positive space affects how the room feels. So if you have more negative space, it can feel larger, more spacious, and even bigger, but it can also feel sometimes underfurnished and impersonal. Similarly, with positive space, good amount of positive space can make the room just feel really nice and cozy, but it can also just feel cluttered and just too much furniture is going on. So it's important when you're designing the space to find that balance between negative and positive. That's very important. Another thing that can affect the amount of space you want going on in your room is maybe the design style. So if you take, for example, the minimalistic design, you will see that it has much more negative space. But total opposite, you have maximalist design. That's just like full on, everything has something, and it has its own beauty. They both work and they both have a harmony, but you'll see the difference in the amount of space, the amount of negative space, and that is dependent on, here in this case, the design style. The next element I'm going to talk about is texture. I think we all understand what's texture. It basically is the feeling that we get from the object. That can mean the roughness, the smoothness, or the softness of the object. Now, depending on the object, obviously, you'll get a different kind of feeling. So something that's like plush carpets or soft fabrics gives you a sense of comfort, while materials like glass, stone, and metal, they give more a cool feeling, a coolness to it. Rough materials give a sense of stability and ruggedness, and smooth fabrics like velvet give a feeling of luxury in the space. So like, what feeling you want to go for, what kind of style you want to go for, your materials will change accordingly. And also, in general, materials is not the only thing that affects texture. The kind of accessories you use, so what material that's made of, the kind of like carpets that you have, that's another texture. Not just the construction materials, I'm talking about even the accessories, and those affect the textures of your space, and you can affect how the room will feel and what you want to do, mood you want to go for in the space. Now, something really cool texture can do is it can create this interest in a space. So if you guys remember the white room trend, like basically everything's just white, and not everyone likes that because it's just white, and I get that, but you know why it works? It works because of texture, and also things like different tone color, so it's still white but like a little bit different color white, if you know what I mean. For example, in this picture that I have here, you can see various structures throughout this image. So for example, we have here the tufting headboard. So the headboard is tuft. That's a texture right there. The texture of the carpet is really soft, very plush, so you can definitely feel that comfort. The sheets that they have going on here different in feeling, so that both the shades have, like, as far as I can see, a different kind of texture on it. And you can see the different tones of white going on here, and there's a slight bit of gray going on here, so it's not pure a white room, but that little subtleties and still being very much a white room. That's why it works, because of the difference in the textures and the tone of colors. I don't think I need to explain what color is. Color is literally everywhere, and it's one of the most beautiful things we have. Color affects the mood of the space. It affects how you feel, the way you interact with the space itself. When it comes to using color effectively, it's important to understand color theory and how all these colors work together, and how you can use this knowledge to make a good space. Now, we didn't get too deep into color theory when we studied about the element color. We just learned basic things about the color wheel. Now, one thing we learned is like complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are opposite to each other on the color wheel. So combining them together can really make a very bold and vibrant look. Analogous colors, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, the colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, if you put those colors together, they create a more like harmonious and calming effect because they are so similar. When you think of the color you're going to use on the space, you have to keep certain things in mind, such as the paint finish, the light, whether natural or artificial, the size of the room, the layout of the room. All these affect how the color is perceived in the room and how in the end what it'll look like. One very important thing you have to keep in mind when choosing color is function, the function of the space. So you won't put some really bright and bold color in a space like a bedroom because you want a calm feeling, you want a relaxing feeling. You would go for some cool colors. Cool colors for spaces like bedrooms, kitchens, that's best. But if you want a like bold, vibrant color, it's good to use for spaces that are not very frequently used, such as the staircase landing, so you can go pretty crazy there and like do a very nice bold color there. Color also is really cool for changing the perception of the size of the room. So depending on how you paint, like if you paint the two side walls, if you just paint the top ceiling, and if you just paint the wall that's like right behind, how much you paint, like maybe if you just like paint half, all these things can like make you sort of psychologically make the room change in size. You're not actually doing that, but you are affecting by the way the color is painted. And maybe even the color you choose, that will change how the space feels. Too much about
bombastic side eye, criminal offensive side eye.
okay. Yeah. Now when you use too much of a certain color, except if it's a neutral color like white in the case, that can really overwhelm the space. So it is good and so it's necessary actually to balance it out with more neutral colors like white or gray to, you know, make it calm on the eyes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have found it useful. I will be making more videos about things in interior design and vlogs, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Bye. I'm not going it.